World War II was a period of unprecedented global conflict, marked by both the heights of human innovation and the depths of human despair. Amid the vast expanse of the Pacific theater, a singular phenomenon emerged that continues to captivate and horrify historians, military strategists, and storytellers alike: the Kamikaze pilots of Japan. These divine wind warriors, as they were known, represented a tactic born from desperation but steeped in centuries-old values of honor, sacrifice, and duty. To understand the Kamikaze pilots and their role in the war, one must delve deep into the cultural, political, and military currents that gave rise to their missions. The term kamikaze has its roots in Japan's history long before World War II. It translates to divine wind, a reference to the typhoons that, according to legend, protected Japan from Mongol invasions in the 13th century. These storms, seen as divine intervention, became a symbol of protection and resilience. Fast forward to the 1940s, and the term was revived to evoke a sense of divine purpose and unwavering defense against overwhelming odds. By the latter years of World War II, Japan found itself in a dire situation. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, Japan experienced initial successes, rapidly expanding its empire across the Pacific. However, the tide turned as Allied forces, spearheaded by the United States, began to push back. The battles of Midway, Guadalcanal, and the relentless island-hopping campaign brought the war closer to Japan's doorstep. By 1944, the Imperial Japanese Navy and Air Force were severely weakened, and the nation faced dwindling resources and a grim outlook. Conventional warfare seemed increasingly futile against the industrial and military might of the Allies. It was in this context of desperation that the kamikaze strategy emerged. Officially sanctioned during the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944, the tactic involved pilots deliberately crashing their aircraft, loaded with explosives, into enemy ships. These missions were not only acts of individual sacrifice, but also an attempt to compensate for Japan's dwindling resources. A single successful kamikaze attack could inflict damage far beyond what conventional attacks could achieve, making it a cost-effective, albeit morally complex strategy. The pilots themselves were often young men, many barely out of their teens. Recruitment for the kamikaze units relied heavily on appeals to patriotism, honor, and the Bushido Code, the samurai ethos emphasizing loyalty, courage, and self-sacrifice. Training was rigorous but brief, focusing less on conventional combat skills and more on ensuring that the pilots could reach their targets. Emotional and psychological preparation was equally significant. Many kamikaze pilots wrote farewell letters, poems, or essays expressing their resolve and, in some cases, their inner turmoil. These writings reveal a spectrum of emotions: pride, fear, resignation, and a deep sense of duty. Despite the romanticized image often associated with kamikaze pilots, not all of them went willingly to their deaths. Accounts from surviving pilots and historical records indicate that some felt pressured by societal expectations, peer influence, and the weight of their country's dire circumstances. Refusal to volunteer or follow through with a mission could result in ostracism or worse, leaving many with little choice but to comply. The kamikaze missions were carried out using various aircraft, ranging from fighters to bombers. Perhaps the most infamous was the Mitsubishi Zero, a nimble fighter plane modified to carry explosives for these one-way missions. Later in the war, Japan also developed specialized aircraft, such as the Yokosuka MXY-7 Oka, nicknamed the Baka Bomb by Allied forces. The Oka was a rocket-powered glider designed explicitly for suicide attacks, launched from a mother plane and piloted to its target. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new daily videos. The effectiveness of kamikaze attacks was a subject of both fascination and frustration for the Allies. While the tactic struck fear into the hearts of sailors and inflicted significant damage on several occasions, it was far from a strategic game-changer. Many kamikaze missions failed due to factors such as anti-aircraft defenses, mechanical issues, or pilot inexperience. Nevertheless, the psychological impact was profound. The prospect of facing an enemy willing to die for their cause added an unsettling dimension to the already brutal Pacific conflict. One of the most devastating kamikaze attacks occurred during the Battle of Okinawa in 1945. This battle, one of the bloodiest in the Pacific theater, saw waves of kamikaze pilots targeting Allied naval forces. The USS Bunker Hill, an Essex-class aircraft carrier, was hit by 2 kamikaze pilots within minutes, resulting in over 600 casualties and extensive damage. Despite such losses, the sheer scale of Allied resources and manpower ensured that Japan's desperate tactic could not turn the tide of the war. The human cost of the kamikaze strategy was staggering, not only for the pilots but also for the families and communities they left behind. Many families received letters or mementos from their sons, along with official condolences from the government. The loss of so many young lives left a profound scar on Japanese society, one that lingers to this day. The post-war period saw a complex reckoning with the legacy of the kamikaze pilots. While some viewed them as heroes who embodied the ultimate sacrifice for their nation, others questioned the morality and necessity of the tactic. In the years following World War II, the story of the kamikaze pilots has been retold through various lenses: literature, film, and academic studies. These portrayals often grapple with the duality of their legacy, the courage and resolve of the pilots on one hand, and the tragedy of lives lost in a futile and morally ambiguous strategy on the other. Monuments and museums dedicated to the kamikaze pilots, such as the Chiron Peace Museum in Kagoshima, Japan, serve as spaces for reflection and remembrance. These sites preserve letters, photographs, and personal belongings of the pilots, offering a poignant glimpse into their lives and sacrifices. The kamikaze phenomenon also prompts broader questions about the nature of warfare, nationalism, and the human capacity for sacrifice. How does a society reach a point where such extreme measures are deemed necessary? What drives individuals to embrace, or at least accept, their role in such missions? These questions resonate far beyond the context of World War II, touching on universal themes of duty, honor, and the costs of war. From a strategic perspective, the kamikaze tactic underscores the complexities of asymmetric warfare. Faced with an opponent of vastly superior resources, Japan resorted to a method that relied on psychological and moral impact as much as physical destruction. In doing so, they highlighted the lengths to which nations and individuals will go when pushed to the brink. The kamikaze pilots, for all their tragedy, remain a stark reminder of the human dimension of war, a dimension that transcends numbers, strategies, and outcomes. As we reflect on the kamikaze pilots and their place in history, it is crucial to approach the topic with nuance and empathy. These young men, products of their time and circumstances, were both victims and agents of a broader tragedy. Their stories, preserved through letters, interviews, and historical accounts, offer valuable lessons about the complexities of war and the enduring human spirit. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the history of the kamikaze pilots. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories from history. Stay curious